Investing in yourself is one of the major keys to success. You should invest your time, money, and every resource that you can lay your hands on in investments that will yield maximum returns in the future. You sure don't want to make investments that will make you regret in future. So that's why we have Home Affairs. Here at Home Affairs, we talk about investment opportunities that are available for you in real estate. In today's episode, we'll be talking about 5 most important factors to consider before making that property purchase. Stay tuned. Immigration into Lagos to know right now. Current population. Now how Lagos impacts you as an over 14 million. When you have more, if you're thinking it's the right environment or ensure it's the right time, there's no better time. Why? You're welcome. Don't forget to like and leave in the comment section which of these points resonates with you more. Everyone wants a piece of land. As a matter of fact, it is the surest form of investment. It's not like a car that can depreciate or a washing machine or an edible investment or something that you can eat once and forget about it and just have experiences. So the best and surest way to invest is properties. But I know that investing in properties is a huge investment and it's something that you have to do with a lot of information. So today we're talking about the 5 most important factors for you to consider before making that purchase. So I like to call it my 5 P's. So the first one is place, otherwise referred to as location. Place goes a long way to influence, the returns on your investment, the kind of house you build, the policies, the payment structure, the development. I mean, everything boils down to place. You know, investors, real estate investors generally, all over the world have come up with this theory that the 3 most important factors to consider before doing anything related to property is location, location, and guess what number 3 is? Location. Because of course location is the master. Location lets you understand that, okay, this is the level of development. When we talk about real estate, it's a tangible investment that you have to see. It has to do with place. It has to do with a piece of property that you can see, you can feel, you can touch, and you can basically have a physical relationship with. So why do we say place is so important? Because when you know the place, it helps you determine what kind of investment. If you're investing for agricultural purpose, if you're investing because you want to buy and build and stay, if you're just buying and living for a long period of time, everything boils down to place. So that is the first question you need to answer. Where do I want this investment? Where am I buying this property? Where is this thing located? What are the landmarks around this area? What are the pointers? What should I watch out for? Who are my neighbors? So place is a very, very important factor to consider before we move into making any purchase in real estate. Number 2, purpose. You should know why you're investing in a property. So when I mean purpose, I mean the reason behind the investment. So why are you purchasing this property? Are you buying it for like you want to buy and sell later? Are you buying to build? Are you buying the house to lease? Are you buying the house to occupy it? Are you buying it to convert it into a commercial purpose? Are you buying the piece of land because you want to farm on it? Are you buying it to use for industrial purpose? Is it for commercial reasons? You need to understand the purpose, because of course when you know why you're investing in the property, it helps you create your budget around it. So let's do a quick one. Let's be practical here. For somebody that wants to invest in a property like for poultry, you definitely want to invest in a location that is, kind of far from residential areas or residential zones because of pollution. Air pollution. Nobody wants to come into their estate and their estate is smelling all foul, foul, foul. So for you to make that investment in that property, you need to know, why am I buying this property? Second reason, am I buying because I want to buy this house and stay in it, like for my personal use, or am I buying because I want to make passive income from it? Or, you just need to identify the why. And when you're able to identify the why and you match it with the where, it leads us to our number 3. And number 3 is proximity. So yeah, you need to know how close this house or this piece of property is to major facilities, to infrastructure. For instance, if you're buying a property to stay in, you need to consider how close it is to your office. You need to consider, for a couple with kids, you need to consider how close this your new house is to your kids' school. You need to consider, the traffic on that axis, if there is going to be traffic on that axis. You need to consider how close it is to the bank. If you often go to the bank, you need to also put that factor in place. I mean, you need to consider, is it close to my worship center? Is it close to amusement park, for your kids? Is it close to the hospital? Is it close to whatever you do frequently? You need to factor that into what you need to consider when you're making a property purchase. So flip to proximity. Still under proximity, you need to know, like I mentioned, the reason why you have to identify why you're buying a property is to ensure that it resonates with that particular location or that place. So take, for instance, somebody buying a piece of property for, you want to build a residential estate, like you want to build an estate where people are going to be coming in to stay. You definitely want to site it in a location with development in view. You don't want to get a property or a residential estate in the middle of nowhere, in the bush. I mean, nobody comes close to that place. If you're considering it to get developed in the next 3 to 5 years and people moving in, you have to put all these things in place. You have to know the level of development in that axis. You need to know, is it urban enough? The kind of structures, how close is it for my clients? How close, how accessible are the roads? You have to put all of this in check before making that property purchase. So now moving on to number 4. Number 4 is policy. So now we know that when it comes to real estate, we deal with documents, we deal with policies, we deal with guidelines, we deal with rules and regulations, we deal with principles. So you need to understand the policy guiding that agreement. You need to understand the contractual agreement between the seller and the buyer. You need to know, the agreement on it. You see questions like, for instance, if you're renting a property, let's say you're the tenant, you get to fill the agreement form. I'm sure a lot of us have rented property at one point or the other, and then you see questions like your name, are you single or married? When do you go to work? When do you close? How many people do we expect to occupy this apartment? What kind of job do you do? Those are questions that need to be asked. If you are eventually the owner of the property, you need to make all this clearly stated. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Some people don't have a problem with people smoking in their apartment. Some people have a problem. Some people have a problem with tribes, so to say. I'm not saying that's right, but there are things that you have to consider. They are the policies. And that access, for some estates, you cannot come into the estate before 5 a.m. For some estates, the estate gate is closed by 10 p.m. I mean, it's something that everybody agrees to. So these are policies. If you're buying a property in that location, you need to understand the terrain. You need to understand the trend. You need to understand what goes on around there. The rules and regulation in this particular location. It's very important for you to understand all of this, to avoid challenges in the future, to avoid questions, unnecessary questions in the future, and regrets in the future. Let me cite another reason why policy is so important. It's important to understand the policy of that particular environment or the particular property you are purchasing. So in a contractual agreement between the buyer and the seller, and the buyer did not identify the place where the seller has stipulated that there is service charge. At the end of the day, when you purchase the property and they come the first month to ask you that, oh yes, maintenance fee for this, and you're wondering, how come? I'm not aware. So you see, you just appended your signature to something that you could have saved yourself the stress if you read it through, if you consider the policy, if it suits you. So it's very important for you to consider the policy before you put your money on the table. So the last but not the least is price. I know you're wondering, why is price the last thing? Yes, a lot of us think about the money first, but you need to consider all these aforementioned before you talk about the money. because the money is something that binds the both of you together. That's the buyer and the seller. And in real estate, money is important. So once the money is off your pockets, it's almost unrefundable. So you have to really ask all those questions before we talk about the price. And now the price is what determines your choice at the end of the day, if you're going to take the offer or you're going to walk out of, walk out of the seller, walk out on the deal and get something else. So it's important for you to consider the price. And now a lot of people face challenges because they don't make, intense research. So for instance, let me bring to our notice that when you're buying a property from a real estate firm, there are other statutory fees that you should be aware of. So the first one I'd like to talk about is development fee. There's deed of assignment, there's survey. These are fees that are statutory and you need to make inquiries before purchasing the property. Take for instance, a property, maybe the cost of the land is 1 million naira. You need to ask, please, what's the deed of assignment? What's the cost for acquiring it? What's the cost for the survey? What's the development fee? I've seen lots of people purchase the property and they just hear it's 500,000 naira, and after buying it, they feel like, hands off, I bought this property and there's nothing they can do about it. Remember, I mentioned that it's important to go through the policy. So on the policy, which contains the agreement, you get to see that after purchasing the property, or the cost of the land is 1 million naira, but there are other statutory fees that you need to pay. So these are very important things that you need to take into cognizance. And one more thing about price. So if you're buying a property, you need to be sure that the agreement, if it makes room for installmental payments. So for some people, they prefer outright purchase, and outright purchase simply means that you pay the bulk sum of money at once. And then in installments means that you can pay within the space of 3 months, you can pay within the space of 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, depending on your agreement with the seller of that property, depending on the terms and conditions that both of you come into unison before making this a contractual agreement between both parties. So just a quick recap for the 5 P's. I call them my 5 P's. The first is place. Number 2 is purpose. Number 3 is proximity. Number 4 is policy, and number 5 is price. So I hope that this video has made you understand that there are other factors to consider apart from the price for the property. So like I always say, if you're new to this channel, you're so welcome, because it's going to be an informative ride, educative ride. It's going to be fun. You will enjoy every bit of information that is shared here. So I know that this has been helpful. The simple way for you to show me it's helpful is for you to like and share this video, and also subscribe if you're new to this channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you can always get a pop-up when we have information like this that will benefit you. So till I come your way again, keep investing. Bye.